They followed every instruction. Then $597,000 disappeared. In 2024, Richard Bates thought he was doing everything right. Bates lived in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. He was purchasing a home in Connecticut. The transaction was moving toward closing. The financing was arranged. Professionals had been hired. Lawyers were involved. Everything appeared routine. Then, like millions of home buyers every year, he received instructions for transferring the funds needed to complete the purchase. Nothing looked unusual. Nothing looked suspicious. The message appeared legitimate. The timing was correct. The details matched the transaction. So Bates followed the instructions. And then nearly $600,000 disappeared. Not because he invested in a scam. Not because he made a risky bet. Not because he ignored professional advice. The money disappeared because he trusted what appeared to be a normal part of a normal real estate transaction. What happened next would trigger a lawsuit, raise questions about cybersecurity standards, and expose a problem that is becoming increasingly common in the digital age. This is the story of Richard Bates, but more importantly, it is the story of what happens when trust becomes a vulnerability. To understand this case, we need to understand how modern real estate transactions work. Buying a home today looks very different from buying a home 30 years ago. Documents move electronically. Communications happen through email. Funds move through electronic wire transfers. The process is faster, cheaper, more convenient, and in most cases, it works remarkably well. But every improvement comes with a trade-off. Every increase in efficiency creates new opportunities for failure. The very technologies that make transactions easier also create new attack surfaces for criminals. And according to Bates's lawsuit, criminals found exactly such an opportunity. Court filings allege that cyber criminals gained access to information connected to the transaction. The criminals allegedly knew the participants, they knew the timing, they knew the amount of money involved. Most importantly, they knew exactly when to strike. This was not a random phishing email sent to thousands of strangers. This was a targeted attack, a precision attack. The kind of attack that becomes possible when criminals gain visibility into a transaction before the money moves. At some point during the process, wiring instructions were communicated. Bates followed them. Roughly $726,000 was transferred. But the money did not go where Bates believed it was going. Instead, it ended up in accounts controlled by criminals. By the time the fraud was discovered, most of the money was gone. Only about $29,000 was reportedly recovered. The remaining $597,000 disappeared. For most people, this is where the story becomes difficult to understand. How can nearly $600,000 vanish? How can a transaction involving lawyers, banks, and professional institutions fail so completely? The answer lies in the nature of trust. Think about the assumptions people make during a home purchase. If an email appears to come from your lawyer, you tend to trust it. If the transaction details are correct, you tend to trust it even more. If the timing makes sense, your confidence increases again. Trust is not irrational. Trust is necessary. Without trust, modern commerce would stop functioning. Every day, people rely on banks, hospitals, airlines, lawyers, accountants, and digital systems. Trust allows society to operate efficiently, but trust has a hidden weakness. Trust can be exploited, and the more complex a system becomes, the more opportunities exist for exploitation. This is one of the central lessons of modern risk analysis. Most people imagine risk as something obvious. A dangerous neighborhood, a suspicious stranger, an investment promising impossible returns. But some of the largest risks emerge inside systems that appear safe. Inside systems people use every day. Inside systems that usually work. That is what makes cases like Richard Bates so unsettling. Nothing looked wrong until it was too late. After the loss was discovered, the story took another turn. Richard Bates sued the law firm involved in the transaction, not because the lawyers stole the money, not because they intentionally participated in the fraud. His argument was different. According to the lawsuit, the law firm allegedly failed to maintain appropriate cybersecurity protections. The complaint described the firm's systems as outdated. It alleged that the firm had inadequate safeguards. It alleged that stronger security practices could have prevented the breach. One issue received particular attention: two-factor authentication. Today, two-factor authentication is considered a basic cybersecurity control. Many banks require it. Many corporations require it. Millions of ordinary consumers use it every day. The lawsuit suggested that measures like these could have reduced the likelihood of compromise. The law firm, however, was not automatically responsible simply because a crime occurred. And this is where the case becomes particularly interesting, because now we are no longer discussing cybercrime. We are discussing responsibility. When should a professional organization be held responsible for a cyber attack? That question is becoming increasingly important. A generation ago, lawyers worried about physical files. Today, they worry about data breaches. A generation ago, banks worried about armed robbers. Today, they worry about ransomware and account compromise. Technology changes, but responsibility evolves more slowly. Legal experts reviewing the case noted that lawyers are not automatically liable whenever a client becomes the victim of a crime. Instead, courts often focus on a different question. Did the professional meet the standard of reasonable care? In other words, were the precautions reasonable for the risks involved? This may sound like a legal technicality, but it is actually one of the most important questions in modern society, because every institution faces the same challenge. How much security is enough? How much protection is reasonable? How much risk remains unavoidable? These are not easy questions. Perfect security does not exist. Every organization operates under constraints, yet clients increasingly expect institutions to protect sensitive information from sophisticated attacks. The gap between those expectations and reality is where many disputes emerge. And then another player entered the story: insurance. The law firm's professional liability insurer became involved in the dispute. Suddenly, the case was no longer just about a buyer and a law firm. It became a multi-layered system: a home buyer, a law firm, cyber criminals, insurance companies, banks, courts. Each participant occupied a different position inside the same network. Each participant had different responsibilities, different incentives, different risks. This is exactly why the case is so fascinating. What appears at first glance to be a simple fraud is actually a systems problem. And systems problems rarely have simple solutions. One of the most revealing details emerged from other real estate professionals interviewed about the case. Some lawyers have implemented extensive anti-fraud procedures, client portals, verification systems, explicit warnings, telephone confirmation requirements. One attorney reportedly places a warning in every email signature reminding clients that wire fraud is real and that transfer instructions should always be verified independently. That detail may sound small, but it reveals something important. Many modern risks cannot be eliminated. They can only be managed. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reducing the probability of catastrophic failure. Eventually, the lawsuit ended. Public records indicate that the dispute was resolved and dismissed. The specific terms were not publicly disclosed. Whether money changed hands remains unknown. But in many ways, the legal outcome is not the most important part of the story. The more important lesson concerns the future, because cases like this are unlikely to disappear. In fact, they may become more common. Artificial intelligence will make communications more convincing. Digital transactions will continue expanding. Remote closings will become increasingly normal. Convenience will continue increasing. And every increasing convenience creates new opportunities for exploitation. That is the paradox. Modern systems become more efficient and simultaneously more dependent on trust. The stronger the system appears, the less attention people pay to the possibility of failure. Until failure arrives. Richard Bates believed he was following the rules. He believed he was following professional instructions. He believed he was participating in a routine real estate transaction, and yet nearly $600,000 disappeared. Not because the system stopped working, but because the system worked exactly as designed until one critical point of failure was exploited. The lesson is not that lawyers cannot be trusted. The lesson is not that technology is dangerous. The lesson is that trust without verification creates vulnerability. For home buyers, that means independently confirming wiring instructions. For professionals, it means treating cybersecurity as a core responsibility rather than a technical afterthought. And for everyone else, it means understanding a simple truth. The greatest risks are often not found outside the system. They are found inside it. This is Structural Capital, where we explore the systems people trust and what happens when those systems fail.